Oh, no. Kirby, throwing it. Oh, this is ugly. Man, 2 days in a row, just this. Golly. Oh, good, we get another angle. That's good play by Terrion right there. What was the problem with that? Oh, and they're throwing fists. This is just 2 days of this. Ugly. The Lions and Giants joint practices turned into a literal slugfest. With the perfect mix of fresh competition, jobs being on the line, and that summer heat, it was clear that both teams were not backing down. The Lions trying to prove that they are Super Bowl contenders, and the Giants determined to show that they can hang. But did either team accomplish their goal? Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Johnny Gaz. Thank you for returning for another video. Today, we're going to give you all the news, notes, and updates from Week 3, the joint practices with the New York Giants. And then we'll do a deeper dive discussion into if joint practices are really worth it. Let's go. Before we start throwing bows, hit that like button on the video if you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gas Sports. We're going for 200 likes on today's video. Thank you guys so much for the recent involvement, all the commenting, all the interaction. Talking Lions football has been awesome. So thank you guys so much for your time. If you're interested in joining the channel, just hit that join button on any one of my videos and I'll walk you through how you can become involved and a part of the family. Thank you guys so much. Let's get into today's topics. Let's start with some injury and roster updates. I think the first thing we got to touch on is the unfortunate injury to Emmanuel Moseley coming off of Monday's joint practice with the Giants on August 5th. He suffered a torn pectoral muscle. Extremely unfortunate. He has been deemed out indefinitely. This will now be the third season in a row where he will miss an entire season of NFL football coming off of 2 consecutive ACL tears. He now has a torn pectoral muscle, and it's just really unfortunate. The Lions are hopeful that he will be able to return later on in the season. Again, we will just hope for the best recovery possible for Emmanuel Moseley. Some good news on that side of the football. Terrion Arnold, who went out of the previous practice on Monday for a possible concussion, has been cleared and was available for practice on Tuesday. Sam Laporta missed his second practice in a row. Dan Campbell came out and said this was a minor hamstring issue, but nothing to worry about. Kevin Zeitler also missed his second straight day with an unknown injury. Motor City Dan Campbell again said this is not long-term or something to worry about. 2 new injuries noted from the prior practice. Malcolm Rodriguez and Ife Melifonwu all sat out Tuesday's practice for unknown injuries the day before. Let's start with the football coming out of these 2 days of joint practices before we talk about the big picture. Lions went into East Rutherford, New Jersey, as we know, for 2 joint practices, similar to what they did last year. And if you think back to it, the Lions really overwhelmed the Giants in day 1 of those joint practices in that previous year. So you had to know the Giants were going to come out with more intensity, much more physical, and that certainly held true. One of the more interesting stories of that first day was the fact the Lions had released their initial roster. And a big piece to pull out of that is that Nate Sudfeld was listed as the number 2 quarterback ahead of Hendon Hooker. I think the Lions in general just want to find the guy that's going to be able to distribute the ball most effectively to their playmakers, and right now that's Nate Sudfeld. We know Hendon Hooker's going to need more time to develop. I think these preseason games here this season will be huge in his development as we head towards the season. So it'll be very important that he gets a lot of time, and I think you'll see that between him and Nate Sudfeld in these preseason games, and hopefully continue to develop. But right now, Nate Sudfeld is in that number 2 position. We know day 1 was really marred by scrums, and we'll talk about that here in more detail. So let's jump into day 2, which was, of course, Tuesday, August 6th. One of the bigger stories there, I think, is the fact that the Lions secondary continues to be beat specifically by rookie Malik Nabers. I think overall they really just didn't look solid in these 2 days of training camp joint practices. Malik Nabers, I think, only had 1 ball thrown to him that he didn't have a reception on. So that's pretty incredible overall. So it's with the Emmanuel Moseley injury and now the depth having to scramble a little bit, it'll be interesting to see what the Lions' true plan is there, what their ultimate, depth looks like now moving forward. And they're going to have to figure that out through the preseason now before they get to week 1. Past that, I think we need to talk about wide receiver 3, which right now seems to be Darius Fountains to lose. He was the first team wide receiver 3 both days of practice, along with a few other guys. But what's very clear is that Donovan Peoples-Jones, Antoine Green, those guys just haven't done enough here in training camp to put themselves in that position. So right now, Darius Fountain is your wide receiver 3. Let's talk about Jake Bates. Again, we touched on his inconsistency in the last video that we did. Well, at camp on Tuesday, August 6th, he went 6 for 9 from field goals anywhere between 40 and 60 yards. So again, still a little bit inconsistent, and we'll have to keep our ears to the ground on that one to see how he develops in these preseason games. I think it'll be very important that he is lights out in the preseason games specifically. Prove that he can make kicks in game time situations consistently, and I think that puts himself in a much better position here moving forward. Another very interesting note were the kick return pairings that we saw in the joint practices. What isn't surprising is that you have Khalif Raymond, of course, working in on this new kickoff return. We talked about him in great detail in a previous video as him being one of the unsung heroes for the Lions here in 2024. But then you also have rookie Sion Vaki paired up with him as your kick returners, which I think is a very interesting pairing. We know about Sione Vaki's versatility, and I think him combined with Khalif Raymond could be a very dangerous pair there as kick returners for the Lions. So let's hit on the big picture and discuss today's true topic. Are the joint practices really worth it? Well, big picture, the Lions offense, I think, was steady. I think they've proven that they still can recover from a bad day. I think day 1, they weren't as good as they were in day 2 as far as the offense goes. But the offense made plays. The JMO story is still holding true. He made several big plays offensively for the Lions, scoring touchdowns. The Lions running backs seemed to be good. The offensive line got a lot of good work against the Giants' defensive line, which we know with the addition of Brian Burns can be very good. I mean, that's one of the strengths of the Giants. And to get that work against those guys and vice versa, that is beneficial. But I think overall, these two joint practices are marred by the circus that were these scrums, these fights at training camp practice. Motor City Dan Campbell is a huge proponent of these joint practices. He's big into the analytics, the studies. He knows, or he wants his guys to get the reps and be ready for the regular season. Other coaches feel differently. We know the Lions asked the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid if they would want to be a part of joint practices with the Lions, and Kansas City and Andy Reid declined. Now, that may be an organizational thing, it might be an Andy Reid thing, or it may be something in regards to what we saw at these joint practices where they know that that does not outweigh the benefit. And I am on that side of the argument. I really didn't like seeing all these scrums. I'm good with intensity. I'm good with physical football. I'm not even a fan of the Guardian caps. I think they look like toddlers running around with those things on. So it's not a soft thing. And part of some of that's going to happen. You're going to get a scrum and a scuffle here and there. That's going to happen. I understand it. But this turned into something much more. This turned into what I'm deeming a circus show. And to me, it shows two undisciplined organizations. And that's so against what the Lions have been these last few years. And I guess, truly believe that at heart. But when you have Dan Campbell come out after day 1 and saying, well, that was too much. And then you still have what I would think is the more serious scrum in day 2. You had like literal punches being thrown by Kirby Joseph in that fight. And then word is at the end of practice, they had to end it early because they couldn't stop them from getting into scrums. So yes, it's intense. Yes, some people think that that's a good thing, but I look at that as a negative. I think that is counterproductive to what the ultimate goal is, especially for the Lions. I mean, we talked about in the intro to this video, they're trying to prove they're Super Bowl contenders. They need to be professional. They need to carry themselves that way. And I kind of expected them to come out and outclass the Giants, and I didn't get that at all from these 2 days. You know, what I got was, yes, they have grit. Yes, they are intense. And yes, they don't take any crap. And there's some good to that. But are they disciplined enough to take the next step? And I'm still left with that question in my head after these 2 days. So I'm going to take the good with the bad. And I guess on the very positive end is that they get a day off on Wednesday, August 6th. And they have their first preseason game to hopefully bring this all together and really show what they have as a team on August 7th for this first preseason game, which I'm very excited for. And I hope you come back to the channel and see me. We're going to do a full review of the first preseason game, hopefully very soon after the conclusion of that game on Thursday, August 7th. So definitely come back and check out that video. I'm very excited for this game. It should be interesting to see some of these depth pieces play out. It's so unfortunate what happened to Emmanuel Mosley, but it may give a little opportunity for a guy like Enos Rakestraw or Amik Robertson to really then supplant themselves as the nickel cornerback. So there is some opportunity there, but there's a lot to look forward to. Let me know down in the comments. What did you think of these joint practices? Do you feel the way I felt? Do you think I'm crazy? Do you like the intensity? Did you like the fighting? I've heard that. So definitely let me know. It's an interesting discussion. If you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gaz Sports, definitely hit that like button. We're going for 200 likes on today's video. If you hit the subscription button and notify bell, it's the best way to stay involved here on the channel. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers, and that is thanks to you guys. It's been an amazing ride. I love talking Lions football. It's awesome. This season should be so much fun. But more than anything, I want to make sure you guys take care of yourself and your mental health. That is always number one, and I want to make sure you come back and see me on future videos. Thank you guys again for your time. You have an excellent day.